Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to a Broad Experience podcast. Is yet another time that we get to hear some stories, get to meet with new people who are abroad or been abroad and have some good stories or experiences or ideas to share with us. I'm your host, Anthony Murore. I'm here in Athens, Greece right now, although I'm from Kenya. And today we have a special guest who is going to tell us about life without a tie. And I'm curious to find out more. I hope you're curious as I am. And I'm not going to take one more minute because I know we've got a lot to cover with our special guest today. So please help me welcome to the show our special guest, Ray Martin.
Hello. Thanks very much for having me on. It's such a pleasure. I'm so excited about talking to you
Yeah, I'm
and your
excited too.
listeners.
I'm excited too, and I know our listeners also are going to be having a
Brilliant.
great time here as we get to know each other, get to know about life without a tie at a point. So,
Brilliant.
Ray, yeah, welcome to our show.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, and we dive right into the show
Let's
by
do that.
asking you a question. Lose a marriage, lose a business, and lose a father in quick succession.
Mm.
That's a story I saw on your profile. Please
Yeah.
tell us about that.
Well, as you can imagine, it's pretty horrendous on the emotional level. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I'd been up until that point in my life. I was 43 when those events happened.
Mm-hmm.
And up until then, I'd just been, relatively untouched by such events and, peacefully and happily and joyfully making my way through life and, and having most of my ambitions come to fruition. So it was like the first time ever that it had all gone seriously wrong, and I was devastated when my wife, who was also my business partner in a company that I founded,
Mm.
told me quite abruptly and without any warning that she was going to leave the marriage and the company, and she'd met somebody, and that's what she wanted to do.
Mm.
And it just like it ripped me in two. I can use lots of phrases like this, but it just felt like I'd been gut punched, and I found it very hard to see any joy in that moment. And then my father got very ill, and he died at the same time. So within 3 or 4 months, I was out of my home. I was losing the company I founded. My marriage was dissolving, and my dad had gone.
Wow.
And and
Wow.
and, and I really was like felt like standing in a bomb crater with 360-degree damage all around me, just piles of rubble everywhere, and I couldn't make any sense of it. So it was pretty. It was one of the hardest points of my life so far, I'd say.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Uh, Take us back to where that was, where you were living, the business you were doing, and
Yeah.
is that where you were born? And how
I
was it
was.
growing up?
Yeah, I was in London in the
Mm-hmm.
UK, and I was born actually just on the edge of London, so I was kind of near to my hometown, but I was living in London. Our offices were in London for the business, and most of our clients were in and around Greater London, and some spread a bit further north in the UK, but most of the clients of our company were spread around there. So that's where it was happening.
What business were you into?
I was the founder and director of a management consulting business. So we were helping larger organizations improve performance, improve their leadership capability, so that their organizations could outperform rival companies, and we could measure that and see the difference that would make.
Okay. And then this thing happened, and this is where you come into a podcast, into a sharing of stories, because I learned that you made a quick decision. Was it quick, or is it something that you
Oh
sat
no.
down and said, okay, I'm going to do this now? How
Yeah,
was that?
no, it wasn't quick at all, Anthony. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people think that, but following the devastation of those events, I had a year where I was just depressed. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really want to go out anywhere. I didn't want to see anyone. I just let things sit, and I was fairly motionless, everything seemed pretty dark.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of my friends made a suggestion to me, which I laughed at first when she first made it. She said, "Why don't you take a 6 month sabbatical from the world of work and business and do some traveling, or go to a place in the world you've never been, or open up your mind to a new way of thinking, and use that space and time to reflect on what had happened and see if you could derive any wisdom from your insight if they were to come, and make some decisions about where to navigate your life next. You're still only in your mid-40s. I mean, what is next for you?"
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, because I was so depressed, I was reading books that I thought might help me. And I came across this book, which some of your listeners might have heard of. It's called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. It's a very famous book. It's been read by about 20 million people.
Mm.
And it's written by a nurse in Australia called Bronnie Ware. And she works in a hospice, so she only talks to people in the last days of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And she said she asked them all the same question: what do you most regret about your life? And she said they all say the same 5 regrets,
Mm-hmm.
but the number one regret that everyone says, no matter whether they were a millionaire or poor or a teacher or a janitor, it didn't matter. What do you think the number one regret is that everyone says on their deathbed?
Let's ask the listeners. I might know the answer. I know the answer, but I want to ask our listeners. I see we have listeners here. We have Karen Fix, who says, "Hey, I'm delighted while watching from Kenya. Thank you very much, Karen Fix, for being with us here." And then we have also Bad Palace. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Now, don't give them the answer yet.
Okay.
Let's see the guess they are going to make. You skip that and come back to the answer to us after they make the guess. Please, all those who
Yeah.
are watching, listening, please make a guess as we continue with the
Yeah.
show. Thank you.
So when I reveal it, the answer to that question, it really made me think, gosh, I want to answer that question for myself,
Yeah.
because I was curious. I didn't know how to apply what she had said in the book to myself. And so suddenly the idea of taking a sabbatical wasn't such a crazy idea.
Okay.
Luckily as well, I was in my early 40s. I hadn't had children when I was married, so I had no ties as such to have to stay near to my home, etc. I was able to go off on a 6-month sabbatical, and I had money saved because the company had been successful financially, and so I had money saved, so I didn't need to work for a little while. I had enough savings to support myself.
Okay.
And so I could do it. And so in the end, I decided that's what I was going to do. And I left to go on a 6-month sabbatical. Of course, we all know, looking back, it didn't go according to plan. Some unforeseen and random events happened. I ended up living out of my backpack for 14 years. And I wasn't expecting or imagining that. And that's one of the reasons that the book exists, because there's a whole story behind that. I can touch on parts of it, but that's what happened.
Okay, the guesses have come in.
Okay.
Bad Palace says that the biggest regret is eating junk food.
Okay.
That's the guess.
I'm sure that's true, but it wasn't one of the ones that Bronnie Ware mentioned.
Yes, and then we have James Kamau says not spending time with family.
That was in there in the second or third on the list, but not the top one.
Okay, give it out.
So the top regret that everyone has, and how she expressed it, was, I wished I'd lived my life true to myself and not the life that others expected of me. And I therefore would have made decisions differently. And I was a CEO of a successful company. I'd won the Daily Telegraph Business Leader of the Year award in England. So I was living the life that others expected of me absolutely brilliantly. I was, my parents are proud of me. My friends all admired my career. So as far as everyone else is concerned, everyone was happy, but it just didn't feel like my life, Anthony. I felt really out of place in it. I always knew that something wasn't quite right about that for me. And I felt like I was living someone else's life in part. So when those shocking events, as shocking as they were, came and they happened, it kind of cracked my reality, and it gave me a chance to reset my own life. And I saw it as, later on, I used to look back and see it as a bit of a gift. I didn't at the time. I was just crying my eyes out in the beginning. But later, certainly 2 or 3 years later, I saw it as a gift, and the gift just kept on unfolding and giving.
Okay.
So, so my life's very different now to the one I had when I left.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, tell us more about that experience. Okay, I think I've heard about that book and I haven't read it yet,
Mm.
but I'm going to read it at some point. I think I've heard many people quote it, but the version that they've quoted it from was that people regret not having enough experiences,
Yeah,
not being out there in the world and
you're right.
experiencing the. So that's the perspective that I had also. So maybe
Well, I
okay.
can I can confirm that and
Yeah.
validate that because when I was writing my own book, I researched a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I found a book called Stuffocation by James Wallman,
Okay.
and he's done loads of research to prove this. He said people who grew up in my generation in the '60s, we were we were driven by values based around materialism. Like
Okay.
for you to have status in the world, you had to own stuff like cars, watches, houses. You know, people judged you by what you owned, the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that you managed to collect.
Mm-hmm.
But the subsequent generations, like the Gen X's, millennials, Gen Zs, etc., he said there's been a huge shift, and those people are valuing experiences more than material possessions, and so there's a shift towards values based around experientialism, is the word he used in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And so I meet lots of young people in my life and in my work, and they all say the same. You know, they're really interested in what experiences they can have. They're not really interested in owning properties or stuff. There's some interest in that if they've got family and stuff for obvious reasons, but it's not the same. Essentially the same. There's been a massive shift in that.
Yeah, that's good. Maybe they've read the book.
So it's a
Most of
really
them
good
have
book.
read the book. Yeah,
Stuffocation is called.
yeah,
Yeah.
the books that you suggest. So tell us about more. Where did you move to first, and how was it?
So my sabbatical, I ended up going to Thailand in
Yes.
Asia. I'd never been to Asia, and I wanted to go somewhere because I wanted to get some Eastern wisdom philosophy into my thinking, which I never had.
Okay.
And in Thailand, about 4 or 5 months into my journey, I was in this physical paradise. Thailand's beautiful, lovely beaches and great people. It's all lovely. But on the inside, I was feeling really agitated, guilty, shameful about having failed as a husband, a lot of embarrassment about failure. And I felt really scared about my future. I didn't know what I was going to do or where I
Mm-hmm.
was headed. So I was anxious and nervous and scared, and I couldn't get comfortable even in Thailand. And so somebody I met when I was traveling said, "Have you thought about doing a Vipassana meditation retreat?" And I said, "No, what's that? You know, never heard of it." They said, "Well, you go into a monastery with Buddhist monks and you sit in silence for 10 days and you meditate with them, and they teach you about the Buddhist Dharma teachings every day." And as he described it to me, I just felt my body sort of tingling. I thought, oh, that feels like I really want to do it. My intuition was telling me I needed to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I'm going to register for the next Vipassana. So I went to this monastery, I signed up, and within a week I was starting this 10-day silent meditation retreat. And when I left the retreat after 10 days, it was like a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
It was like if I had a volume knob on the side of my head, when I went in, it was at 10 out of 10 noise in my mind, you know, noise, fear, anxiety, etc. And when I walked out, it was like someone had turned it down to like a 1 out of 10. I was just noticing how beautiful the sunshine was, how lovely it was to be alive. I was appreciating just being in my body, healthy and well. And I was calm as a lake. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was lovely. It was just such a game changer for me, and I've had a mindfulness and meditation practice ever since then. Still,
Mm.
like even 20 years later, I still have that practice.
How long did you say you stayed there?
In Thailand, I was there for a couple of years, but in Asia and with my backpack, 14 years in total.
14 years. And when you say you with your backpack, does it mean that how was the life? How are you living? Because okay, you had some money, yes, so you are
Yep.
living good, not just the way I experience some. I see some people live.
Yeah. Well, so I had enough savings to last a while, and what I started to do is, in the beginning, I started a fundraising organization
Okay.
because I was seeing things that really touched my heart, even as a tourist. I saw an elephant sanctuary in the north of Thailand where they were rescuing elephants and giving them a chance to live back in the wild in safe, loving conditions. And I saw an orphanage in Nepal in the Himalayas because I did some trekking there. And I thought, what could I do to help? What could I do to help? And then I randomly met a guy who ran marathons, a traveler. And when he described it to me, I got the same tingling sensation that I got when someone described the meditation retreat. So I thought, oh, I knew there's something here. I was 48 years old when I met him.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, do you think I could run a marathon? Because I could raise money for these things that I've come across. And he looked at me and he said, well, you look quite fit. Why don't we go for a run together and I'll tell you what I think? So we did. And he said, yeah, I think you could run a marathon. And I'll tell you what, if you stay here in Chiang Mai for 6 months, I will train you how to run your first marathon. So I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And so that was a joy to get my body working. And I ran the New York Marathon in 2009 and was able to raise $15,000 for the orphanage and for the elephant sanctuary. Took that money back and was there for a year doing stuff with the money to get things made and make stuff happen. This was just like I was making this up as I went along. I had no plan for any of this.
Okay.
And because I was helping, all the things that I needed, like a place to stay and food and all the basics were all there. So I didn't need any money really. But eventually that project ended and I was needing money. And so I started working part-time in Asia doing leadership coaching, which is what I had done in England. And I just through a lot of luck and good fortune, I managed to connect with the right people who found ways I could work and be paid for the work I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where else did you move to? Where else have you lived apart from there?
In various places around Asia. And then, in 2014, I met someone in Chiang Mai who was from Poland, who was there on a holiday. She was there taking a vacation and we liked each other a lot. And so I decided after a couple of years of knowing her to move to Warsaw in Poland, and I lived there for 3.5 years. And then we moved to Spain. I lived there for a year or so. And then eventually I came back to the UK in 2019. 14 years later than I said I would, but I did come back. Yeah.
So you finally came back.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me appreciate our viewers who are still here with us. So we have Bart Barres who says one should live life to the fullest and not do the bare minimum.
I agree. Yeah, if that's possible, definitely.
And then says that life for orphans in India, even Pakistan and Bangladesh, is sad.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who live in very difficult and challenging conditions, which breaks my heart when I see it.
And is that so in Thailand, or is Thailand a very advanced place?
I think out of all the economies in Asia, it's probably one of the more prosperous ones.
Okay.
I don't have no way of ranking these countries. I don't know how to put them in high to low, but the standards of living in Asia are generally rising because their economies are doing well. They're strong. They're competing in the world economically and doing quite okay. So, like Vietnam's the same, Thailand's the same. I'm not sure about some of the other countries. Bangladesh is a poor country and there's some very hard times there for people.
Yeah, and we welcome those people who are watching this to tell us about the life where you are living or where you have been. How has it been? Tell us in the comments whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching the recorded version of this podcast. It would be great to know about life in other places. And coming back to you, Ray, you write a book, Life Without a Tree.
A tie.
A tie, sorry. Life Without a Tie. At what point did you write? Okay, sorry, not a tree, rather. At what point did you write this book? And is this book having all these stories you're telling us, or what is in that book? I'm curious.
Yeah, when I left in 2005, I obviously was a traveler, and when you're a traveler, you meet lots of people and you talk to them. You say, "Where are you going?" And they say, "Where are you going?" And why are you doing this? And of course, whenever people ask me, after I've been traveling 3 or 4 years and I'd done the marathons and I was doing the foundation and raising money, they all said to me, "God, this sounds amazing, Ray. can I give you my email address? And I always used to say, why? Why do you want me to take your email address? They said, well, if you ever write a book about this, I'd really like to read it. And I just laughed. I said, I'm not writing a book about it. I'm not a writer. I've never written anything. I was writing a blog on the internet, and I was doing that, and that was quite fun. But to write a book, I thought, I have no idea how to do that. But by the time I got to 5 years into the journey, I had about 50 or 60 email addresses of people that had given them to me. And suddenly one day, when the next person came and said, can I give you my email address? I kind of went, oh my God, the universe wants me to write a book. And I've kept ignoring this message. And I'm getting it every week. Someone's saying it. So I better work out how to write a book. This was about 2011, 6 years in.
Okay.
And at the same time I was having this epiphany and this realization, I saw on Facebook, which was quite new then. Facebook hadn't been out very long. I saw on Facebook that some big shot writer was coming from New York City to Chiang Mai to give a 5-day workshop on how to write a book. So I wrote to her and I said, look, I don't have much money. I'm just a fundraiser and a traveler, and I'm living on a budget, but I'd love to do your course if you can accommodate me, because I can't afford the price. But if you could find a space for me on the course, I'd love to do it, because loads of people have asked me if I'll write a book about this journey I've been doing, and I don't know anything about book writing, so I could really use your help. And she said, come and do the course. There's no problem. We'll find a space for you. So I knew that was the right thing to do. And I did some learning and learned that. And about 3 or 4 years after that, 2015, I started actually writing the book. And I finished it about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, it got published. So it took me 6 or 7 years to actually finish the writing.
6 or 7 years.
Yeah, and that was in 2023. So it was 4 years after I got back to the UK even.
Yeah, messages come in different ways. I mean, you use, and maybe to someone who's watching this podcast, this is a message to them to do something extraordinary.
We miss a lot of the messages, don't we? That life gives us these messages, and we ignore them or we miss them, and life just goes, "Hey, I've told you this before. Come on, and let me remind you again and again." It just keeps reminding you. Sometimes you get this message.
Yes, and now it's some 4 years or so that the book has been out. And did those people that had the email address already read it? Many other people read it, and what are they saying about the book?
Well, they've all written reviews on Amazon where most people buy the book, and I've got loads and loads of brilliant reviews. People are really excited about the story that I managed to capture. But I made it more than just about myself, you see. I didn't want to just talk about what I did. I really wanted to share what were the wisdom that was gained, what did I learn, and how could anyone who was reading that book apply it to their own life. And so I came up with this one chapter of the book is called The 6 Rules for Happiness. How do you live a happy and extraordinary life? What does it take, and what do you have to do in order for that to happen? And I wrote out these 6 rules and how you apply them to yourself. So I think more people have found that valuable than some of the other parts of the story.
Maybe you can tell us, because we are glad to have you here on our podcast. Which are those 6?
Yeah, but I mean, each one would take me. I don't know how much time we have.
At least in brief.
Yeah. So the first rule is build yourself a foundation of self-awareness. If you do not want to commit to a life of self-awareness, you should not expect to have a happy and extraordinary life, because that's what it takes. If you really have to be willing to reflect wisely quite often on how your life is unfolding, what's happening, why it's happening. So things like, what's my vision for my life? What's the picture of the perfect life I'm headed towards? How would I describe that? What's my purpose? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Who am I serving? What's it for? What are my values? What do I want to experience on a daily basis that's really important to me? Like, if I like being a member of a team, I don't want to be working on my own. That's important. So I recognize that for my value of teamwork to be honored, I've got to work in a bunch of great people that I like. So what are my values, and how do I live those values most fully? What are the beliefs that I have in my mind that really empower me? Like, it's a really empowering belief to be generous, to give your time, and be of service. These are empowering beliefs. But limiting beliefs are things like I'm not good enough, I'm not clever enough, I don't have enough experience, no one would ever let me do that. You know, those are limiting beliefs, and we need to know what those are and have countering empowering beliefs. So these are all the rules for happiness, like um, things like owning everything that happens to you. You can't blame others for when things don't work the way you want them to. All that is a chance to learn and do something different. There's nobody outside that's really to blame, and it's really not going to help. So taking full accountability for everything that happens to you, owning it, being accountable to yourself, that's really important. Being your own observer. You know, like how often do you get some event happens and you just get really angry and annoyed, and you're in the anger, you're consumed by it, you're shouting and you're reacting, you're on autopilot. Whereas if you're becoming your own observer, you can watch what happens to you in those moments and go, wow, I see that what Anthony just said, it's annoying me. I can see it. I can see anger arising inside me. I can see it. I can feel it. Do I want to act on that? No, I don't. But I am noticing it. But I do want to choose a more wise and measured response without getting into a fight with him. You know, I don't want to do that. So that's being your own, that's being in the observer place before you act. That's a really important rule. Building powerful relationships with people that last your whole life. That's rule number 4. Rule number 5 is about proactively looking after your well-being, because we live in an age where there's so much toxicity in the atmosphere, in the food, in the water, in everything. You know, it's very hard to stay well and not get burnt out, not get stressed, not get diseases. So you've got to be very mindful of how you look after your physical energy, your spiritual energy, your emotional energy, and take care of your soul's needs. You have to think about these things and take ownership for that. And then the last rule, rule number 6, is if you're doing the other 5, you have to be doing the first 5. But rule number 6 is if you're living the first 5, you find and empower other people to live the way you're living. And that helps you integrate it fully. So that's that's the fastest I've ever talked through those 6 rules. But,
And you
obviously,
did really good. You did
yeah, and
really good. Yeah.
if any listeners have got questions, ask them to put their questions up so we can answer them. You know,
Oh yeah, sure. If you have questions, please ask, because I know we are being watched from many, many places on this planet. We have Njeri, who is watching in all the way from Saudi,
yeah,
and
gosh,
he's appreciating the conversation. Thank you for that, Njeri. He's appreciating and the others who are watching and commenting. Thank you very much for the comments. But Palace, thank you for being very active on this episode. Says that life sends you messages in most odd ways. Odd
yeah,
ways. Yeah. So, and then we have James Kamau, who says that uh, he's responding to my request for people to share their experiences, whether it is that they are, and says that life in Germany is orderly with strong public services, respect for rules, and a culture that values both efficiency and personal time.
and I'd like to know from James if that's something that he enjoys and appreciates, or whether that's something he finds restrictive. You know, I'm quite curious to know his view of that if he's listening.
Yeah, James, if you're still listening, tell us, do you like the orderliness of life there, or do you want it the way we have our freedom to do what we want or whenever we want and not care about any other thing? Yeah, you can give us feedback on that. Um, and the way this, when you're giving the 6, I'm thinking now this could be summed up with the this famous quote from the Greeks that says, "Know thyself,
Yeah, yeah,
know
know thyself.
thyself."
That's a
Yeah,
crucial part of having a happy life.
yeah, yeah. So you can have a happy life and also be an example to others, so that
Yeah.
they pick lessons from your life and live their life to the full. As Bad Palace was telling us, live your life to the full, not
Yes,
at bare
exactly.
minimum.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, looking back on your journey from the that bad experience that you had within a few weeks from each other, and the journey that you've taken up to coming to this point when you're giving back to the society or showing, uh, giving, sharing the lessons that you picked from that. How can you sum it up?
Well, it's all about finding your own path that's true to yourself, as Bronnie Ware says it. I think of it as a bit like if you're going to climb a ladder, just make sure you put it against the actual wall that you want to climb. Because if you climb all the way to the top of a ladder and then realize, as I did, oh my God, I've put my ladder against the wrong wall. This is not the actual wall I wanted to climb. I've spent half my life bloody doing it.
Mm-hmm.
This is not such a good thing. So try and give some thought to the journey that is yours, the one that you feel would bring you alive, not the one that you think others think you should do. No shoulds or musts or ought tos, or try and put to one side other people's thoughts about that, and make sure you focus in the one short life that you have on what you most want to experience for yourself.
Wow, that's good. So reflection, reflection, reflection.
Mm.
Just don't just live life the way it comes. I mean, the way you're seeing it being lived, or just accepting whatever comes your way. Reflect on what is happening, how it is you're taking it in, what is it, what contribution you make. Just make a summary of what is happening and how you would want it to be in future for you and others. That's how I get it. And yeah, thank you. We have some people watching from Facebook. The comments haven't come here. I see we have Henry Karanja watching on Facebook, and says that in Kenya it's very hard, especially those who are in business. We are asking feedback about places people are in. So Henry Karanja is in Kenya. Thank you, Henry, for that comment, and we pray for you, those who
Mm.
are back in Kenya now. And yeah, make a reflection. Find out whether it's another place that you should go to, as Ray moved to another place. I don't know. It's a matter of reflecting on yourself and what you would like to end up tomorrow. Are you putting the ladder against the right wall, or are you putting the ladder against the wrong wall? And then tomorrow you're going to regret. So just reflect, reflect. After hearing such a story from Ray, and I also advise you to go read Ray's book. How can people find your book, by the way?
Oh, it's on Amazon. The book's called
Yeah.
lifewithoutatie.com. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, the book's called Life Without a Tie, but there's a website dedicated to the book called lifewithoutatie.com. And that's the best place to get more information about it. Plus, loads of people who read the book said, can we see pictures from the journey of the 14 years? And so on that site, there's a section on the website which got photographs of all the different chapters from the book.
Oh, wonderful.
And also, one thing for your listeners, if they want to get there's a free downloadable file which is the audio of the introduction to the book. The introduction to the book is at the beginning, and I did an audio recording of that, which you can download for free from the website. So if anyone wants to listen to the book's introduction, decide, is this a book I'd want to read, then they can get the audio for free and they can
Okay,
download it there.
that's good. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So once again, that's www.lifewithoutattie.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can always go and get that. Thank you. So after you reflect, after you read, and keep on reading books. Now, James has suggested to us some wonderful books we should go and read, and also his own book. So let's read, let's reflect on the life that we are living, and especially to those people who are abroad.
Mm.
Just about before we finish, we
Oh look,
have
we've
some.
got we've got a comment from James.
Yeah, James commented and said, yes, I do like the orderliness in Germany because it has helped me become
Yeah.
more disciplined compared to my experience in Kenya. So James is coming from Kenya, and
Yeah,
he's
great.
had a different experience than in Germany. And he feels that people are generally encouraged to value punctuality, which is good.
Brilliant. That makes sense. Yeah, I've got a value. One of my values is around integrity. You know, and that includes being on time when you say you'll be with someone. So I like that. That would suit me.
Have you had some experience with people from Africa
Not so much. No, I
with
haven't. I
timekeeping, as James wants to
no
share with us? Because
no I haven't. I have to be
yeah,
honest and say I've never done business in Africa, so I
so
don't
they
really
say
know.
they say that we have African time, and African time is
Okay,
our own time.
right. Oh, that must be quite frustrating. I'm sorry to hear.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating. Wow, wow. It's such an honor, Ray, to have you here on this podcast.
Thanks,
We really
thanks,
appreciate you
Anthony.
coming. We are just about to sign off. But before we sign off, uh, first, let me thank all my all the viewers, all the listeners.
Mm,
Even
yeah.
when if you are watching this recorded version of it, thank you very much for taking your time. Please share this episode with your friends. It's important. And yeah, thank you very much. And before we let Ray go, please tell us something. I know you've said quite much, and much of maybe even something that you could want to share at this point. I know it could come from what you have already shared, but at this point, I ask you, tell us something that we should never, never forget.
Gosh. Well, the thing I should say you should never forget is that you're only ever one thought away from a better life. You know, no matter what's going on, it's in your thinking, and that's something you can choose and change.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's really, really wonderful. Never forget that
You're only
it's
one
just
thought away
one
from a
thought
better life.
away
From
from
a
a
better
better
life.
life.
Yeah.
There's no better way that you can put it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ray.
You're welcome.
Highly, highly, highly appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah, so those are broad experiences that we've had from Ray, and also from all the people who've contributed and gave us some questions. No, we didn't get so many questions. Next time comes with questions, but we got some contributions. Thank you very much for the contributions. And yeah, we are wishing you all the best as you continue to experience abroad. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Ray.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
This yeah, so this has been your host Anthony Morori, and together with our wonderful guest Ray Martin, you're saying until next time, have a great experience. Bye for now.